My name is Ethan Carter, and for most of my life, I believed the worst thing a family could do was abandon you. I was wrong. The worst thing a family can do is stand beside you, smile in your face, eat at your table, ask for your help, call you son and brother. Then rob you blind. And when you finally catch them, they don't apologize. They ask why you're being so selfish. It started on a Monday morning, the kind of morning that should have changed my life in the best way possible. I owned a small construction supply company in Ohio called Carter Building Solutions. It wasn't glamorous. We sold materials, handled bulk orders, supplied contractors, and slowly built relationships with local developers. For years, I worked 12-hour days. I skipped vacations. I drove the same old pickup truck long after I could afford something nicer. I poured every dollar back into the business because I had one dream. I wanted to build something that was mine. Not inherited. Not handed down. Not given to me because I was somebody's favorite. Mine. That Monday, I had just signed the biggest contract of my career. A regional developer had chosen my company to supply materials for a new housing project. The total contract was worth nearly $2 million over 18 months. The first deposit hit my business account that morning, $240,000. I remember staring at the number on my laptop screen, barely breathing. For the first time in years, I felt like maybe all the sacrifices had been worth it. My assistant, Claire, knocked on my office door with 2 coffees in her hand. "Is it real?" she asked. I turned the laptop toward her. She covered her mouth. "Ethan, we did it." I laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do. I had been holding my breath for so long that success felt unfamiliar. That afternoon, I called my mother. Her name was Margaret Carter, and if you asked anyone in our family, she was the heart of everything. That was what people said. I used to believe it too. "Mom," I said, trying not to sound too emotional. "The contract came through." There was a pause. "Oh," she said. "That's nice, honey. Nice. $2 million in contracts, years of stress finally paying off, and my mother said it was nice." Still, I swallowed the disappointment. "The deposit came in today," I said. $240,000. This time her tone changed. $240,000? "Yeah." "Well," she said slowly, "that's wonderful. You should be very grateful." I almost laughed. Grateful to who? I had built the company from nothing. But before I could answer, she said, "You know, your brother has been having a hard time lately." And just like that, the conversation shifted. My older brother, Daniel Carter, was 38 years old, 4 years older than me, and somehow still treated like the helpless child of the family. If Daniel lost a job, he was going through a rough patch. If Daniel borrowed money and never paid it back, he was trying his best. If Daniel lied, cheated, drank too much, gambled, or disappeared for weeks, my mother always had an excuse ready. "He's sensitive. He's under pressure. He's not as strong as you." That was the sentence I heard my entire life. Daniel was not as strong as me, so I had to be patient. Daniel was not as responsible as me, so I had to understand. Daniel was not as lucky as me, so I had to help. But the truth was, Daniel had been handed everything I had worked for. When our grandfather died, Daniel got his truck. When my parents sold their old house, Daniel got the down payment for his condo. When my father retired, Daniel got access to his workshop, tools, and storage units. I got advice. Work hard. Be patient. Family comes first. That Monday night, my mother asked if I could lend Daniel $20,000. I said no. Not because I didn't have it. Because I knew what lending money to Daniel meant. It meant giving. It meant never seeing it again. "Mom, I just got the deposit," I said. "That money is for inventory, payroll, vendor deposits, trucking, insurance. He's your brother. And this is my business." "You sound cold." I closed my eyes. There it was. The word she used whenever I set a boundary. Cold. "Mom, I'm not doing this tonight." She sighed like I had wounded her. "Fine, Ethan. Enjoy your success." Then she hung up. I should have taken that as a warning. But I didn't. 3 days later, everything fell apart. It was Thursday morning. I walked into the office at 7:15 a.m. Claire was already at her desk, pale as paper. "Ethan," she said, "you need to look at the account." My stomach dropped. "What happened?" She didn't answer, she just pointed toward my office. I opened the banking portal. At first, my brain refused to understand what I was seeing. Available balance, $3,180.22. I refreshed the page, same number. I clicked transaction history, wire transfer. Wire transfer. Cashier's check. Electronic payment. Withdrawal. 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 In less than 48 hours, almost the entire deposit had vanished. My hands went numb. Claire stood in the doorway. I thought maybe it was a bank error. I clicked the details on the largest transfer. $90,000. Recipient, D. Carter Holdings. My brother. I stopped breathing. No, 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 no. I clicked the next one. $50,000. Recipient. Daniel Carter. Then another. $35,000. Then $22,000. Then multiple smaller withdrawals. All tied to Daniel. Claire whispered. Ethan. I grabbed my phone and called him. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. Then I called my mother. She answered on the second ring. Ethan. I'm busy right now. Where is Daniel? Silence. That silence told me everything. Mom. I said slowly. Where is he? I don't know what you mean. My business account is empty. Another pause. Then she said, don't overreact. The room tilted. Don't overreact. Not. What happened? Not. Are you okay? Not. I'll help you. Don't overreact. My voice came out low. You knew. Ethan. You knew. He was desperate. I gripped the edge of my desk so hard my fingers hurt. He stole from my company. He borrowed money. He emptied a business account. Mom. That's not borrowing. That's theft. He said he would pay it back. With what? She didn't answer. With what? Mom? He just needed time. I laughed once, sharp and ugly. Time? I have payroll tomorrow. I have vendors waiting. I have orders I can't place now. I have a $2 million contract that depends on that money. You always land on your feet. I stared at the wall. There it was again. The curse of being responsible. When you are the one who always survives, people start believing they can keep hurting you because you'll recover. I said, how did he access the account? My mother went quiet. Mom, he said you gave him permission. No, he didn't. Daniel is reckless, but he's not stupid enough to think that lie would work unless someone helped him. She breathed shakily. Then she said the words that ended whatever illusion I still had left. I gave him the folder. My knees nearly gave out. What folder? The one you left in the basement after Dad's surgery. The papers. Passwords. Bank information. I didn't know he would take that much. I could barely hear her over the blood rushing in my ears. A year earlier, after my father had a heart scare, I stayed with my parents for a week to help around the house. I had brought emergency business documents with me because I was still working late at night. Apparently, I had left a folder in their basement, and my mother gave it to Daniel. Not by accident. Not unknowingly. She handed him the keys to my life. Why? I asked. My voice cracked. For the first time in the conversation, she sounded irritated. Because he's your brother, Ethan. Because family helps family. I hung up. For about 10 minutes, I just sat there. Then Claire said, very softly, what do you want to do? I looked up at her. Call the bank. Freeze everything. Then call Mark. Mark Ellison was my business attorney. By noon, I was sitting in his office with printed transaction records spread across the table. Mark was in his 60s, calm, sharp, and not easily surprised, but when he saw the amount, even he leaned back. Ethan, he said, this is felony theft. Wire fraud too, depending on how he accessed the account. My mother helped him. Then she may be involved as well. I looked down at the papers. Seeing it written in black and white made it worse. My brother had stolen from me. My mother had helped him. And my father? My father had not called. Not once. Mark folded his hands. You need to file a police report. I already knew that. But hearing it made my chest tighten. Because filing a police report meant crossing a line my family would never forgive. Then I remembered my mother's voice. Don't overreact. I said. Do it. That evening, Daniel finally called. I was in my office, staring at vendor invoices I could no longer pay, when his name appeared on my phone. I answered without speaking. Ethan, he said, like we were two buddies clearing up a misunderstanding. Listen, I know this looks bad. I almost laughed. Looks bad? I was going to tell you. You stole $230,000. I didn't steal it. I moved it. To yourself. I had obligations. Gambling debts? Silence. I closed my eyes. Of course. Daniel had always gambled. Sports betting. Poker rooms. Online casinos. Random business schemes that were basically gambling with extra paperwork. How much do you owe? I asked. That's not important. How much? He exhaled. More than I thought. I said. You're going to return every dollar. I can't. Then I'm going to the police. His tone changed instantly. Don't be stupid. I sat straighter. What did you say? I said don't be stupid. You filed charges. You ruined me. You ruined yourself. No, Ethan, you're just mad because for once, you're not in control. That sentence revealed something I had never fully understood. Daniel didn't feel guilty. He resented me. He resented my business, my discipline, my success, my refusal to collapse like he did. He had not stolen because he was desperate. He had stolen because, deep down, he believed I owed him. You have 24 hours. I said. For what? To return the money or turn yourself in. He laughed. Actually laughed. Mom said you'd act like this. My stomach turned. What else did Mom say? She said you wouldn't really call the cops. You care too much about your reputation. I leaned back slowly. That was their plan. Not just theft. A bet. They were betting that I would be too ashamed to expose them. That I would protect the family name. That I would swallow the loss, save the company somehow, and let Daniel walk away. Again. I said, you have no idea what I'm willing to do now. Then I hung up. The next month was the worst month of my life. The developer paused the contract. Vendors demanded payment up front. 2 suppliers cut off my credit line. I had to sit across from my employees, people who had trusted me, and explain that payroll would be late. Not canceled. Late. I sold my truck. I cashed out personal savings. I took a short-term loan with brutal interest just to keep the doors open. Every morning, I woke up at 4 a.m. with my heart pounding, wondering if that would be the day everything collapsed. And during all of that, my family treated me like the villain. My aunt called first. Your mother is devastated. I said, my business account was emptied. She said Daniel made a mistake. He committed a crime. He's your brother. I hung up. Then my cousin texted me, can't believe you're involving police. This is family business. Then my father finally called. His name was Robert Carter. He had always been quiet, but I used to think quiet meant wise. Now I understood that quiet often meant cowardly. Ethan, he said, your mother hasn't slept. I haven't slept either. This is tearing the family apart. No. Theft tore the family apart. He sighed. Can't you just work something out? Dad, did you know? Silence. Did you know Mom gave Daniel my folder? He didn't answer. That was his answer. I said, you knew after it happened. He came to us crying. Your mother panicked. And you said nothing. I didn't want to make things worse. I stood up from my desk, shaking with anger. Worse for who? He had no answer. That night, I made a decision. I stopped defending myself privately. I stopped trying to convince relatives one by one. If my family wanted to protect Daniel with whispers, I would answer with evidence. Mark and I requested bank records, login data, transfer confirmations, IP logs, signed authorization forms, and security footage from the bank branch where Daniel had purchased cashier's checks. What we found was worse than I expected. Daniel had not acted alone. My mother had driven him to the bank. She had sat beside him during one of the withdrawals. She had told the bank employee that Daniel was authorized to handle business matters, because I was out of town. She had even signed a statement claiming she had heard me give Daniel permission. A lie. A written lie. But that wasn't all. Daniel had transferred part of the money to an account under my mother's name. $30,000. When Mark showed me that document, I felt something inside me go cold. She took money too? I asked. Mark looked grim. It appears so. I stared at the transaction. $30,000 to Margaret Carter. Memo, repayment. Repayment for what? My mother had not just helped Daniel hide the theft. She had benefited from it. I drove to my parents' house that evening. I did not tell them I was coming. When I arrived, Daniel's car was in the driveway. So was my father's. My mother opened the door and froze. Ethan. I walked past her into the living room. Daniel stood up from the couch. You shouldn't be here. He said. I looked at him, then at my mother. $30,000. Her face changed, just slightly. But I saw it. Daniel said, what are you talking about? I pulled the bank record from my jacket and dropped it on the coffee table. $30,000 transferred to Mom. My father picked it up. His face went pale. Margaret. My mother's eyes filled with tears, but I had seen those tears too many times. They were not guilt. They were weapons. I was going to give it back, she whispered. I nodded slowly. Were you? I needed it for household expenses. You live in a paid-off house. Dad has a pension. You needed $30,000 from my stolen business funds? She snapped then. Her tears vanished. You think you're better than everyone because you have a company. I stared at her. There it was. The truth. Not fear. Not confusion. Resentment. You walk around like you built yourself from nothing, she said. But family supported you. How? We raised you. That's called parenting. Daniel scoffed. I turned to him. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically. Morally. You almost destroyed my company, I said. He rolled his eyes. You're dramatic. You always make everything about yourself. I laughed quietly. My business account gets emptied, and somehow I'm making it about myself. My father said, "Everyone calm down." I looked at him. No, I'm done being calm. Then I turned back to my mother. You signed a false statement. She flinched. You lied to a bank employee. You helped Daniel access my account. You accepted stolen money. Daniel stepped toward me. Don't threaten her. I looked him dead in the eye. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm telling you what happens next. My mother whispered. Ethan. Please. That was the first time she sounded afraid. Not sorry. Afraid. I said. Tomorrow morning, my attorney is submitting everything to the detective assigned to the case. My mother grabbed my arm. You can't do this. I pulled away. You already did. She cried harder. Daniel could go to prison. Yes. I'm your mother. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said, you should have remembered that before you helped him rob me. I walked out. The next day, we submitted everything. The police investigation moved faster after that. Once they had the records, statements, and transfer trails, Daniel's story fell apart. He tried to claim I had given verbal permission. The bank logs proved I was in my office during the transaction. Claire provided emails showing I had been negotiating purchase orders at the exact time Daniel was wiring money. Security footage showed my mother beside him at the bank. Then came the final nail. Daniel had texted her before the withdrawal. Mom, I need the folder today. Ethan will never give it to me if I ask. Her reply, I'll get it. Just make sure he doesn't find out until you fix things. Fix things. That was what they called stealing from me. Fixing things. Daniel was arrested 6 weeks after the money disappeared. My mother was charged shortly after. Not arrested dramatically, not dragged out screaming, though part of me expected that. She was called in, questioned, and charged with fraud-related offenses. The family exploded. My aunt left voicemails calling me cruel. My cousin said I had destroyed my mother. My father came to my office one evening looking 10 years older. Claire let him in reluctantly. He stood in front of my desk, holding his cap in both hands. Ethan. He said. Your mother wants to talk. No. She's scared. She should be. She didn't think it would go this far. I looked at him carefully. That's the problem, Dad. None of you thought I would fight back. He lowered his eyes. For once, he didn't argue. I said. Did you know she took $30,000? His jaw tightened. No. I believed him. But it didn't matter. He had known enough and stayed silent. I failed you. He said. I waited for that to make me feel something. It didn't. Maybe if he had said it before the charges. Maybe if he had said it before the evidence. Maybe if he had stood beside me when everyone called me selfish. But now, it felt like a confession made only because consequences had arrived. Yes, I said, you did. He nodded, tears in his eyes. Then he left. The case took nearly a year. During that time, I rebuilt my company piece by piece. Not easily. Not cleanly. I lost the original developer contract. That almost broke me. But one of the subcontractors from that project respected how I handled the crisis. He introduced me to another builder. Smaller contract. Less money. But steady. I took it. Then another. Then another. Claire stayed with me even when I told her I might not be able to keep her. She said, you gave everyone else a chance when things were good. I'm giving you one now. That kind of loyalty changes a person. I stopped thinking of family as blood. Family became the people who stood in the fire with you, not the people who lit the match and cried when they got burned. Daniel eventually took a plea deal. Restitution, probation plus prison time. Not as much as I wanted, more than my mother expected. He had to sell his condo. His car was seized. Several accounts were frozen. Most of the money was gone. But I recovered enough to stabilize the company. My mother also took a plea deal. Her lawyer argued she had been manipulated by her son. That made me laugh when Mark told me. Manipulated. My mother had spent her whole life manipulating everyone around her, but the moment consequences came, she became a helpless old woman who didn't know better. She avoided prison, but not punishment. Probation. Fines. Community service. A criminal record. And the $30,000 she took had to be repaid. The day after her plea hearing, she called me from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. But something in me wanted to hear what she would say. Ethan. She whispered. I said nothing. I know you hate me. I don't hate you. She cried softly. That seemed to surprise her. I continued. Hating you would require more energy than I'm willing to give. She inhaled shakily. I made mistakes. No. I said. You made choices. I was trying to save Daniel. You sacrificed me to save him. You were always stronger. There it was. The family motto. The excuse they used to bleed me dry. I said. I was stronger because I had to be. Not because you protected me. Because you didn't. She started sobbing. I'm still your mother. I looked around my office. The same office that had almost gone empty because of her. The same desk where I had sat wondering how to pay employees. The same walls that had heard me break down after everyone went home. "No," I said quietly. "You're the woman who helped my brother steal from me." Then I ended the call. 2 years later, Carter Building Solutions no longer exists. I closed it. Not because it failed. Because I outgrew it. I started a new company with Claire as my operations partner. We called it Northline Supply Group. No family name. No Carter legacy. No reminder of people who thought blood gave them ownership over my life. Northline grew faster than Carter ever did. We landed commercial contracts. We hired 23 employees. We moved into a larger warehouse. And for the first time in my life, I stopped waiting for my family to be proud of me. Daniel got out and tried to contact me once. He sent an email. Subject line: "We should talk." I deleted it. My mother sent letters for a while. I didn't read most of them. But one arrived on the anniversary of the theft. I don't know why I opened it. Maybe curiosity. Maybe weakness. Maybe some part of me wanted proof that she had finally understood. The letter was 3 pages. She wrote about shame. About regret. About how lonely the house felt. About how Daniel rarely visited. About how my father had moved into the guest room. Then, near the end, she wrote, "I hope one day you understand that I only did what I thought was necessary to keep this family together." I folded the letter. That sentence told me everything. Even after all of it, she still believed protecting Daniel was the same as protecting the family. She still didn't understand that I had been family too. I walked to the shredder beside my desk. For a second, I held the letter above it. Then I let it go. The machine pulled the paper in slowly, turning 3 pages of excuses into thin white strips. Claire knocked on the door. "You okay?" I looked at the shredded paper. Then at the warehouse floor beyond the glass wall, where people were working, laughing, building something real. "Yeah," I said, "I am." And I meant it. My brother emptied my business account. My mother helped him hide it. My father stayed silent. My relatives called me cruel for exposing them. But here is what they never understood. I did not destroy the family. I revealed what it already was. And the day I exposed them was not the day I lost everything. It was the day I finally stopped paying the price for people who never loved me enough to protect me.